Hello, everyone. Jose Jen with Garcia Mohome University here. Very special guest, Jen. Jen with Property House Partners. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Jen, we met back in what was September, if I remember correctly, September 2017, correct?
No, it was only a year ago. It was 2019.
Why am I
Time has
thinking
flown.
17? That's a long
I don't
time.
know.
Well,
I
I've been
know.
around with JT for a while, legacy before that. And before COVID, there was seminar after symposium. So one of those happened somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I don't recall, but okay. Well, we met down in Florida at JT's event, the 1%. So
right.
been a while, but tell us about Jen.
Well, I probably started real estate investing in June, July of 2019 or no, 2018. And it's, kind of grown from there. And I will say that over the last couple of years, I mean, it's been so weird, especially this year with COVID and everything. It was just so much pivoting that we had to do and think about. And thank God I had coaching from JT and Francie because they just pushed me to change everything that we were doing. And like I said, pivot to what the market's doing to make sure that we could stay afloat. There's a lot of people that aren't going to make it through this, and I feel comfortable in the fact that we'll be okay.
Good. Definitely a lot of things have
Yeah,
changed, and COVID is interesting. Of course, then there's the
it is.
word of a second time around. I don't know. I don't know what to expect of, but definitely repivoting and keep educating ourselves. We are lucky to have JT on our side. You said you've been doing this since 2018.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
I sorry. No, I was going to say I will say though, like I started off really kind of like beginning it and getting my education, everything that in November of 2017, but it was a very bumpy road. And it was sort of like drinking from a fire hose, because there's so much information out there.
mhm,
And while that was great, it was just super overwhelming and I really didn't have a path to follow. And then I found these other coaches that were closer here to me that really kind of gave me a blueprint to how to figure out real
okay.
estate and really get started on that. And then once I did that, like things started to really pick up. And then I met JT in April of 2019. And now after having him, with me, that's just really kind of catapulted everything. And it's all just blown up from there, which has been great.
Absolutely. Well, good. So, what type of real estate do you typically invest in?
So I am located in the Twin Cities metro in Minnesota, and we typically focus on folks who need to sell their homes quickly, right? So whether it's a probate or an inherited home, just any distress situation, that's what we look to purchase. Typically single family homes. We've done some, duplexes and townhomes and different things like that, but the majority of, kind of our bread and butter is really doing single family homes.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And we might be seeing a lot of people who need to sell coming year. So that is to come.
Yeah.
So, well, that's the unfortunate. But so that I'm into mobile home investing. Technically, same thing that a lot of people do with investing in real estate, just on manufactured housing. What is your knowledge on mobile homes, trailers, manufactured housing? It's got a lot of names to it.
It does. To be honest, it's not a huge market for us here just because we just don't have a ton of, mobile home parks. And if we do, they're really outside the metro, which is, I don't really necessarily focus too far outside the metro. But I've always tried to contact you if I have something that does come up because we do have those parts. And that's the cool thing of the network that we've been able to build is that I know I can call you, right? Hell, I have called you, right? I can just call you and say, hey, I have this mobile home. What do I do with it?
Absolutely. Power of networking. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
So what is a typical rehab? Things are different, definitely, between a mobile home and a stick built, from rehab to selling to closing, all the above. But what is a typical rehab on a single family home that you would do?
So around here, a real bread and butter for us is that typical 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house, 1,500 square feet or so. And if it's just a cosmetic rehab, meaning, no windows, no roof, it's just mostly inside stuff, carpet, paint, kitchens, bathrooms.
Mhm.
For us in our price point, it's somewhere between $35,000 to $45,000. That's what we're finding here. And we can get those done in, 3 to 5 weeks typically, and
Okay.
then, put them on the market. So for us, anywhere between 3 to 4 months is about an average time.
Okay. And that was a question I had was what is you said 3 to 5 weeks to, I guess, to rehab it, but what would be a typical from the time you lock it in the contract to the time you sell it? Is there an estimated time you typically see on that?
Yep, on that one, it's usually about a 4 to 5 month timeline from buy to sell to close. Yeah. With, like the rehab in there. That's usually, I mean, we did one, it was a short sale actually this past April that we closed in, and then it was a $40,000 rehab job. And so from buying, we bought at the end of April, and then we closed out at the end of July. So that was actually 3 months. That was a pretty quick one, which is
Okay.
lovely because the market up here, I think like everywhere else has just been crazy, and it sold in an hour and
Wow.
went above asking. So not complaining about that.
Do you typically invest in more than one stick built at one time?
We usually try to have, anywhere between, and again, it depends on your contractor. I think it's important to not have more than 2 jobs per contractor because it can just get overwhelming. We've had 3 at a time before. That's the most that I've personally done at a time. We have 2 going right now. But anywhere between 1 and 3, I'm actually, trying to get, I've gone through quite a few contractors. And so I have one good one that I like right now, and then I have to find another one that I like because, like I said, you're always hiring and firing when it comes to rehabs, and
I
you
I was
just have
about
to
to say we
find
could
that.
do a whole video on just contractors and handymen. Yes, they are special people.
Yeah,
Okay, so what are
yeah.
some
If you find a
challenges?
good one, hold on.
Absolutely. You find a good one, keep on treat them right and provide bonuses where you can. Oh yes, that's the same with mobile homes. And that's one thing that you hear from any investor in real estate. Really, it's always the handyman, the contractors, because that can be a big issue for sure. What are some challenges that you go through during the rehab?
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last couple years is that for me, it was about just firing people quicker because you were always helping, hoping that you're like, gosh, they say they're going to get it done in weeks. They don't get it done next week. There's some excuse. Okay, I'll push it out another week. Okay, I'll push it out another week. Well, a week becomes 2 weeks, becomes 3 weeks, becomes 5 weeks. You push things out. And I had that happen with a house of mine. And it was just to that point where I just fired everybody and I had to start over. And it was okay. Like I said, we ended up all right because I bought it right, but I would have done a lot better had I actually just trusted my gut instinct and said, all right, this is your excuse. And, if you do it once, shame on me, you do it twice, that whole, I can't remember the saying, you know what I mean? Like that thing where it's like, shame on me, or shame on you the first time, shame on me the second time. And so I really learned from that. So, even on a project that we have right now, it was somebody kept pushing me out. And I said to my project manager, I'm like, fire him and move on. Let's go. I said, we don't have time on this. We're already late, because we had so many backups with COVID that I said, just fire him and move on. There's going to be somebody else to take him. And that's what we did. And she got it done. So that would be my biggest piece of advice would be don't hold on, have a really long list of vendors that you can go to or subs and just keep going down that line and making sure that you get whatever you can done and get it in writing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, handyman and contractors, they will have every excuse and then some. Yeah, from their dog ate their hammer to, everything. They don't have a right. Yeah, no, I get it. And same with mobile homes. We have a holding cost, which we have to pay for lot rent. So every day they can't get to work or do what they're supposed to. That's just one more expense out of pocket. I get it. Okay.
Right.
What would be a make or break for a deal for stick built?
In terms of the buy side or in terms of rehab, or
The buy side. If you were
what do
going to
you mean?
get a property, what would be some things that I guess would keep you from making that deal if the numbers checked out? Let's say that.
Nothing, as long as you buy it right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I wouldn't walk away from anything. If the numbers were right and I knew I could buy it right, I wouldn't walk away from it at all. I mean, even if the house is falling apart, it's all about your numbers, right? If you do your numbers correctly on the front end, you're not going to lose on the back end. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't waver from that. You know, when you have your set, and I even had people call me the last week, like, well, you know, what are you doing your numbers at now? Because the market's kind of different. I said, no, it's not different. I said, people are buying, excuse me for saying it, but people are buying stupid right now when it comes to investors. They're purchasing way too high and they're going to lose their tail on the other side of it. And that's the problem, is that you make these, you know, like, oh, I'll just do it this time, or, oh, you know, I can do 5,000. That's not a big deal. But when you start wavering from what your numbers are is what really gets you in trouble. And so sticking to what that number is on the front side, and if it doesn't work, then you walk away. That's it. I mean, hands down, it's very black and white. If it doesn't make sense and the numbers don't work, you walk away. If it works, then like, sure, I'll take on anything. In the beginning, though, I would say that somebody who's just starting out shouldn't do anything more than just that cosmetic rehab, because then you start getting into things that maybe you haven't experienced before, and you can make really, really big mistakes and end up upside down really fast. Even same thing too with houses that are built, you know, before 1925, 1930. You're going to start running into, you know, a lot of problems like lead pipes and asbestos and, you know, knob and tube wiring, and that stuff can just run up bills like there's no tomorrow, and you're not sure. And so, like I said, specifically doing smaller jobs in the beginning to get comfortable and understand your numbers and what you're dealing with, and then build from there.
So many things you can teach me from a real estate side. I can just, yes, very good. A lot more things that, and I don't know real estate. It's like I said, it's different, but that makes sense. No, absolutely. What is the deal is the deal. What is not is not. And don't take on too much that you can't handle. Very well put.
Right.
So with all going on in the world, COVID and second whatever, would you say this is a good time to invest in real estate?
Absolutely. I think this is the time, especially now, not only with COVID, but, you know, with it being holiday season, I think a lot of people kind of step back and they're like, oh, well, I'll just take a break from things right now. But this is the time I think that everybody should be pushing harder than before. Because here's the deal. And I just did a short sale training with JT and Polly this past weekend. And I interviewed Steve Mandel.
Okay.
And what Steve said was, is he said, this is the time right now where people are going to be more relaxed because, like, again, they're taking a break, it's holiday time. And the thing is that we need to be building up these things for ourselves right now, because at one point, you know, the other shoe is going to drop. You know, the moratoriums and, you know, the forbearances and all these things, there's going to become a conclusion at some point. And I'm sorry, but the banks are not going to lose. And the homeowners are going to lose. And so if we're prepared to be able to help out people in the best way that we can, which is what we know how to do, which for me is typically going to be a short sale for somebody or a cash purchase, like I said, depending on, or, you know, terms or whatever it is. But we have to become so educated and understand what we can do to help, because that's what we're here for ultimately. Of course, yeah, sure, we get paid from it, but ultimately what we're doing is to get people out of a bad situation, right? And help them come up with a conclusion that makes sense and be creative about it, because it's going to happen, you know, and it's not because of, you know, subprime mortgages this time. It's over something that nobody can control. But at the end of the day, banks won't lose, we will. And so what can we do to step in? And now is the time, like I said, to get prepared and get ready for it, because it's going to come.
So what would you say to anybody looking to get into mobile home investing? Educate yourself, learn.
Yeah, you know, here's the other part is you're obviously extremely experienced. You're super legit at what you do. I mean, contact you. You are the guru, right? When it comes to mobile home investing. And if people want to do that, they need to call you, right? Mentor, like, do coaching with you or mentoring or calls, whatever it is. I mean, I have people calling by me too, and they're like, Jen, what should I be doing right now? I said, learn your craft, pick something, because obviously there's a lot of different ways to invest, which again is amazing, but it can get overwhelming. And then you become, you know, the jack of all trades, but a master of none. And so find one or two things that are super interesting to you, really study those pieces, and become good at them and be ready to hit the ground running. But don't let it paralyze you. And I think that's what happens sometimes, is that everyone's like, well, I have to know everything before I do it. No, you don't. Just jump. You're going to make mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. I make them all the time. I still do. But the thing is that if I made the mistake, I own up to it and I move on. Or if I don't know the answer to something and somebody asks me, I'm like, you know what? That's a really great question. Let me figure out, I don't know the answer to it, but I'm going to find out the answer and I'll get back to you. It doesn't make you look bad. It just means that, like, there's things that we don't know. I mean, there's a ton of things that we don't, and things are changing and things are weird, and nobody's gone through COVID before. So there's going to come up, there's going to be things that come up that nobody's going to know the answer to, I mean, I can't tell you when, things are going to turn around. Nobody knows, and so I think preparing yourself and prepping yourself and reaching out to people who know more than you do, that's what you need to do, and emulate what they do. Success leaves clues. JT tells us that all the time. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Find someone who's doing it better to you and latch onto them and then do what they do.
Very well said. You said a couple things there I'm going to highlight, and I am going to put this in this video, and that was, you said just jump. For those of you who do not know, most of you, I'm sure, I quit corporate America about a year ago, and Jen was a big influence in that. She said, just do it. I thought it over, and I reached out to close people who know more than I do, and Jen was one of them, and her saying, just jump, just do it, was about the last thing I needed to hear, and I did it. So yes, I never did follow back up with you on that. And it's been great, by the way. Oh, amazing.
Look at you now, right? Is it not the best decision you've made?
Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Why did it take me so long? So you were right, yes. Okay.
Well, it's scary. You know what I mean?
It is.
I think when, you have this job and you feel like you have this security, even though it's false security because you're not the one controlling it. I mean, I didn't really say my story in the beginning because, everybody has a story, right? And it doesn't necessarily matter. It just depends on what you do afterwards, right? And like my husband was at a job for 16 years and got laid off one day out of the blue. And I had just had our kids. And so I was at home. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, screw it. I said, I'm done having someone else determine what our worth is. That is something that we need to determine. And that was kind of what I said to you. I'm like, why are we letting other people decide our fate for us? That makes no sense. And so grab a bull by the horns and go. You have it in you. You just have to decide. Right? And once you've made that decision, then you move forward, right? I mean, JT says too, success isn't a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. And if you make the choice and then you move forward and that's all you focus on, you're going to be successful. Are you going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Are you going to lose some money? Probably. But that's part of the learning process. And as long as you keep going and you keep moving forward and making progress, that's really success right there. Success is progress. And as long as you keep doing that, you can't lose.
Absolutely. Learn what you can, all that you can, but you're never going to figure it out. And we're always learning. That's the thing is, I mean, every day you learn something new. So to think that you can figure it all out, you're going to be waiting forever. Like you said, take action. Yes, absolutely. Jen, It has been awesome. Great having you on here. If somebody in your area wanted to sell a house or duplex or whatever you want to buy, whatever makes sense in numbers, how can they reach you?
Well, I am on Facebook actually every single Wednesday morning at 9 Central, and I'm always doing information for sellers, information for buyers, for investors. You can always contact me on Facebook through Jennifer Greene on my personal Facebook page. We also have our website, which is propertyhousepartners.com, and house is spelled H-A-U-S. So property, H-A-U-S partners.com. I'm also on Instagram at Property House Partners. And then you can, shoot me an email. It's hello@propertyhousepartners.com. It's pretty simple. Or you. I mean, they can contact me and you can get in touch with me.
I will send them your way, but I'll be sure to put the link on the video below as well. So anybody wants to reach you, they'll get a hold of you. Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Jose. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a good night.